All right. So listen, Rob's not here. So I'm going to play the Taffy intro that was supposed to play. So this is what should have played if we had Rob here. Did you hear it?
Marriage, sex, and intimacy. In this episode, we get real and unfiltered.
What I mean by that is we're having premarital sex and then we get married, but it's still on birth control.
I think it's great to talk about how great sex is.
Okay, now this is like where it gets like a hot topic issue.
Let's do it.
Can we all talk about Father Mike Schmitz and how handsome he is?
I showed him to a girlfriend who's not Catholic, and she's like, "When's Mass?" Father Mike Schmitz has not been name dropped yet in that way in this show, but I'm glad it's happened. All right.
That is grave and dangerous, and please stop.
Taffy is
sick. Somebody pay that man. Please.
I started a tip jar, but nobody's chipping in. But if you guys are fans of Taffy's intros, I have a tip jar at the top of my Twitter. Anything that goes in there will go to him. I think somebody gave $1 so far. I was trying to hope it, builds up a tiny bit so I could hand him something. But yeah, man, Lila managed to set the internet on fire yesterday, huh?
Yeah, as soon as I saw that post, I said, this is going to go viral for all the wrong reasons. I was just like, I couldn't comprehend, when you're sexualizing the clergy, I mean, there's being a gooner and then there's being a turbo gooner. And that is, anytime somebody talks about the clergy like that, I'm sitting there. I said, who allowed this to be, first of all, recorded and then posted and edited in that specific sequence? Is just imprudent. Let's just put it in a charitable way. It's imprudent.
It was strange because they're talking about how like sexualization and how men are not animals, and then they act like animals in the beginning of the clip, and it's like, I don't know, man. It's just we're gonna play the actual clip that she put together, but it's one thing that she did with Father Mike at the beginning, but there's just something so immodest about women publicly sharing details of their intimate lives with their husbands. Like, I just find it I don't know if I like that. Like, there's something so off-putting to me about just women. Look, I think that there's probably a place where girls can talk about this stuff if it's just girls, but Lila puts that out on her Twitter and it blows up. There's like 8 million views on it, and you have these two women just talking about their intimate lives with their husband. It was just so awful, in my opinion.
It's already a problem that women are in this kind of public facing position and not fully taking care of their families. There are very few women, very few men too, but especially few women that should be talking about these things. And the women that should be are often taking care of their well-ordered families. I was talking about this with my wife the other day. I said, there really only should be, nuns and sisters and, women that have taken that kind of vocation speaking publicly on such topics, because they could probably do so with much more prudence and virtue versus it just kind of sounding like, girls getting a cocktail and talking all kinds of retardation while, about a priest publicly on that kind of a platform. It's just, and you just start to imagine, like, what are their home lives really like if their husbands are permitting this type of like discourse in a public fashion? It's just scandalous, dude.
It takes another turn when your wife is the sole breadwinner, like in Lila's situation, right? Like, Lila's making $500,000 a year running live action. So now, even if her husband has something to say, because I'll even tell you this, like, coming into tonight's show, my wife saw the thumbnail. She's like, why are you going to be talking about something? I'm like, be quiet. Like, don't watch my show. Like, like, I don't understand why you even, like, this is just something I have to do, and there's something really disordered in when the woman is the one. So Lila, as much blowback as she got, it's actually beneficial to her to get that kind of blowback, and it opens their husbands up to ridicule publicly. And I just don't understand a woman that would want to open her husband up to that kind of ridicule.
Well, I mean, it kind of just in a public way goes to show that these men are in a way kind of purse holders. Like you're allowing yourself to be spoken about in such a way. I don't know their situation if she's the primary breadwinner, but if that's the case, I mean, that's already sort of dysphoric and disordered in and of itself. And then on top of that, you compound this with being a public personality, and then not just sexualizing the clergy in the case of Father Mike, but also talking about sex. Like, just women just should not be talking about this in a public forum. Like,
I would just be so mortified if my wife was doing
and
that.
then doubling down on it too. And it's like, listen, you missed the point of like the pushback that you got completely. Like, nobody's talking about sex being a good thing. It's like, you don't need it. Okay, well, imagine you and I were sitting here. You're like, yeah, you don't need to listen to your wife. Like, wives, you don't need to be listened to. Like, we don't need to like cater to your emotions. We don't need to help you. We don't need to take you out on dates. You don't need a date. You know how retarded that would sound? Like, no guy would even permit saying that either.
It's interesting because they're bragging about how they make their husbands not like, I don't know. It's just look, this is why I always had an issue with people discussing even the theology of the body stuff too publicly, because I think in some ways this Christopher West kind of popularized talking about these kinds of topics. And I do think there's probably some good that came from theology of the body and stuff, but the idea that it's like cool for women to talk about orgasms and things like that, it's just such a weird thing that has happened since that whole. And I was trying to figure out what Catholic Inc. is, and I used to think Catholic Inc. was kind of just like anybody related to Catholic Answers and Steubenville and anybody adjacent, but I don't think that's actually what it is. And we did a show last time we talked about this when they put that picture up of everybody and we called it like the Longhouse. And I'm like, how do you define the Longhouse, the Catholic Longhouse? And I'm pretty sure it's people who see a clip like that in the creator space know there's something off with it, but will not call it out or say something because they want to go on Lila's podcast, or they don't want to have somebody in that arena be upset with them because they criticize this. And I think it goes down to even having a priest at a parish who wants to put an altar rail in for people to kneel for communion, but they won't do something like that because the Susan in the parish rectory or they'll get upset by it. So the priest doesn't actually do what needs to be done because he's afraid to cause waves with the women.
Yeah, and it's odd because these people, in a way, whether they're deliberate about it or not, it's kind of gatekeeping the popular shows, where the majority of the traffic goes. And I think that's a large part as to why most of the Catholic content you see is just apologetic slop.
Yeah.
And this is why I appreciate about, what you guys are doing. Obviously, I'm biased when I'm on the show, but I was listening this far before I came on this the first time. And this is why I also just don't care how big my YouTube channel or my following grows, is because there is a huge segment of the Catholic inquiring population, or the Catholic population in general, that is largely ignored. And that's like these like younger men that like nobody's speaking to. They're either being told and longhoused and tone policed by these catty women that should just be taking care of their families, or they're just being spoken over by these like apologists that go to ChatGPT and like schedule out their ex tweets, bro. It's just brutal.
How awful is that, right? Like these guys just scheduling their tweets, asking ChatGPT, and first off, I kind of feel guilty because I think I did start some of that because I kept seeing all the Protestants doing it and like trolling us with Mary stuff. So I just started leaning into it. And I see a lot of people doing that now. So I do feel a little bit bad about starting that, but it is pretty awful. The challenge is always like, what do you do to not be like everybody else? Because the apologetic slop really is everywhere, and you see the same. How many times can you debunk sola scriptura? How many times? Like they're just the same arguments rehashed over and over. Like Rob and I have struggled with this too. It's like, what is our identity now? We really don't want to discuss Rome at all. Since Leo came in, I don't want to be the critic of the hierarchy at all. let that play out the way it's going to play out. So what we've been doing is just kind of picking whatever's happening in the culture and trying to talk about that from a Catholic perspective. But every once in a while, something like this pops up, and it looks like you're being uncharitable by talking about this. But how do you not discuss something like this when these are Catholic creators and they're just in like it was just so off-putting to me. I don't know. I'm very worried about the next generation and younger men from what women are putting out on the internet and how I see men reacting to it and this revulsion they have as soon as they see the things they're putting out.
Yeah, well, I think the identity thing on social media is a bit of like an evolution as you kind of grow in faith. I mean, it's really smart. It's a prudent thing not to talk about the hierarchy anymore, just for like, your own soul and for the souls of other people that are watching. And you don't want to sow that kind of like division, kind of keeping your opinions to a degree more or less like to yourself, vocalizing them here and there. That's fine. I love what the show has turned into, because I think when discussing this type of thing, you kind of lend a voice to like the indignant male rage that a lot of these guys are experiencing and seeing, and that like, am I insane? Like they feel like they're in a room and like, am I the only one that feels this way? Am I insane for having this like reaction of complete like revulsion, being repulsed by this? It's like, no, okay, these other dudes that I respect actually feel this way as well. And so it's so necessary. And I think that's, the Catholic content creator space. A lot of these people, first of all, are called to it because they want to be influencers. And the easiest way that they can do it is going about it in this sort of like sloppy, apologetic, clickbaity type of way. They don't actually have an identity. They don't want to ruffle feathers because they want to get in with all the peeps at Catholic Inc., whomever those people may be, because otherwise they don't really have a message. Otherwise, who's going to listen to them? What are they going to communicate that's of any value? And so that's why I think, whatever you want to call your channel, it's not a ministry, it's not an apostolate, neither is mine. I'm just a dude that like rambles on a webcam about, masculinity, but it's necessary because you're off the beaten path. And I'm telling you, man, like the reach and the impact that guys like you, Rob, to a degree myself, not trying to sound like prideful or arrogant, is pretty big. These young dudes, man, they really look to us for some, at least our opinions or our guidance, because we're the unks, bro. We're the older brothers. So like nobody's talking about this. It's like, are these women just going to get free reign to just pop off at the lips,
But you still see the simps in their comments defending it, and it's just like, I don't man, how did it get to this place where women can basically say anything for attention and just want and men would defend it? And like I have this because I keep seeing, and I even saw Keith and Matt talk about this when Keith was on Matt's show, and there's this element of any kind of criticism of another Catholic is uncharitable. And like, I didn't want to come on here and start trashing Lila. It wasn't even about that. It's more like an assessment of what is happening in our culture with e-girls in general, right? Because especially e-girls on the right, not one of them. Have you ever seen an unattractive e-girl on the right?
Nope.
Not one, right? Like none of them are unattractive. So every single one of them are using their looks to attract these simps to get their fan base. And they purposely, I mean, the whole thing with the mass fits, and then even you have like Isabella Moody, who's dropping the N-word to sound outrageous. And I'm just like, have any of these women actually offered anything valuable to the conversation that they're not just like picking over me? Like, there are a couple of women who I respect in this field, but they're not e-girls, like you get into somebody like Jennifer Roback Morris, who worked with the Ruth Institute to figure out marriage, things like that. Catherine Bennett from Catholic Unscripted, but they're not e-girls. Like this new crop of e-girls using their beauty to try and suck men in, and then posting mass fits to basically like lure men into their attractiveness, and then they'll lecture them about pornography. And it's so beyond mind-boggling to me. I don't know how we go forward with this.
Or lecturing them on masculinity, and guys just eat it up because it's a kind of an offshoot of the pornographic culture in a way, right? And it's narcissism veiled as virtue, because these women are like, oh, they're Catholic, so like I'm going to respect her, I'm really going to listen to her. But really, it's really just a kind of a slightly more virtuous version of the OnlyFans plague. It's no different.
It really is. It's the same, and especially when you see the girls who left the OnlyFans world and then come into this world, and they're doing the same attention seeking. It's just with their clothes on now, right? And I don't know. I'm wondering what, like, how do we win this back? Like, Jeff just said it. Let me just see. He said, men have largely ceded the public arena to women, and it's going to take a concerted effort to win it back. Now, how do you go about that without seeming like a total chauvinist and you're just like, shut up, women, but like, shut up, women. Like, I don't know how else to handle it.
I think you said it. I think there are times where the proverbial heavy hand has to be brought in, and it's when things get so far, oftentimes the pendulum really has to swing really drastically in the opposite direction. I'm not saying like becoming misogynistic or being vicious or malicious in such a way, but I think it's going to take some like serious, consistent correction, and like also encouraging guys to just stop listening to them, because there's really not much of value that are coming from these female platforms. Like almost nothing is coming of value that is coming from there, especially not for men. Like if these dudes just stopped gooning, in real talk, not even trying to be funny, because like that's all it is. They're just sort of enamored by the beauty of these women, and they're talking about things that are kind of quasi virtuous. Stop listening to women, men. Like what do you get from it?
Like YouTube is 80% male, right? So these women wouldn't have platforms if it wasn't for men watching them. But it's an interesting thing, because I do think like there probably needs to be, because my wife will be like working around the house and she just wants to put something Catholic on that she could listen to, and she may not want to listen to some macho masculinity podcast, you know what I mean? So like I know that there has to be a space for women to hear other women and stuff, but I just think the direction that some of them are going is just, you see the thirst trapping. Like they're trying to get men to come into this space, and they're using their looks to do it, and then they're in there lecturing men about that. Like do you think there's any scenario where a married woman should be talking about men's use of pornography? I cannot fathom where that is acceptable.
It's not acceptable. It's very scandalous, even to the men that are trying to improve themselves, because there's just a fundamental disconnect. It's like when a man or woman is trying to tell a man how to be a man. It's like, listen, we don't like, I don't know if you don't know this, but we don't have the same parts. So you don't relate to the struggle. You don't relate to manhood. You don't relate to, what a man experiences because of testosterone, because of the fact that we even have to say this is retarded. That's so much as to shift it in the wrong direction. It's like now you're literally talking about men masturbating to pornography. And this doesn't occur to you that this is a bad thing, even for you and your soul. Like, why are you even talking about this? And you're a married woman and you're talking about this. Wild.
And they have absolutely no understanding of what a man struggles with in that whatsoever. It's not to say like there may be women who struggle with that, but it's nothing like what men are going through. It's just a place where they have no business talking, and they insert themselves into the conversation because of this urge to be men. And I don't know, man. I'm really having a hard time. I'm having a hard time handling it in a way where you don't come off like a total a-hole when you talk about it. But I don't know how else to do it, because really it's their husbands that should be telling them, hey, you need to draw a line here and don't do this anymore. Like, I'm not comfortable with you doing that. But if the husbands are just like, well, I need the money she's bringing in from social media influencing, and not actually criticizing it, because look, okay, so Brian Holdsworth, I actually want to find Brian's tweet, because Brian defended Lila, and I like Brian. We both really like Brian. So this isn't, I want to kind of use what he said to try to see his perspective on this. But he said, am I the only one who thinks Lila Rose was speaking to a pornified culture that thinks promiscuity is necessary when she said men don't need sex? I didn't hear anything about married men surrendering the conjugal rights, which is what everyone seems to be accusing her of. So that's what I think people are misunderstanding. Even she misunderstood in her reply to this. I'm not saying like in substance what she was saying was wrong. Like, yes, men don't technically need sex, and the thing is, the priesthood is actually, like, the celibate priesthood is actually the symbol needed, especially in our times, to show people that sex is not the thing you need to be happy, right? So everybody thinks like sex is the thing that's going to make you happy. Well, a celibate priesthood is actually a sign that our eternal reward is not going to come down to sex. It's going to be something much higher. Like, they are the true romantics, the celibate priests, if they are living a chaste celibate life. But a married woman talking about NFP and her husband turning her on because he has self-control, like, it's just not an appropriate conversation. That's what the real issue is here. It's not about the substance of what she was saying about the priesthood and men needing sex. It's just married women should not be speaking publicly about this topic.
Yeah, and nothing about what Brian said was necessarily wrong. I just think it was the point was kind of missed. The outrage, he kind of maybe missed the point in terms of like the outrage, because there was a mixed reaction. Like, a lot of people were reacting to the fact that, obviously they were talking about Father Mike Schmitz, which Brian obviously agreed with us. It's dumb and it's retarded, it's degenerate. But the overarching point was, I exactly agree with you. It's like, why are women talking about this type of thing when they're married? Like, a woman going on there. First of all, I mean, again, not to keep beating the drum of the Father Mike Schmitz thing, but it's really bad. Like, she should probably go to confession for that. I'm a scrupulous guy. Like, you should probably do that. That's bad. To me, that's bad. And then on top of that, it's like, you're talking about how much your husband turns you on. It's like, man, like, you forget that there are cameras. There's cameras on. And then on top of that too, right? The audience of men that watch that and eat that stuff up, right? A lot of these guys, we live in a fatherless generation. We already know that. Feminism, etc. Gynocentrism. There's also all these men that have mommy issues. So when they hear a woman start to talk about this, it almost kind of recreates that mommy issue. So it just takes off because these women are attractive. They're talking about things that guys want to eat, they eat up. And many of these men cannot stand correction. They buckle.
Yeah.
This is what I do with guys. I talk to guys one-on-one all the time. I have a men's group. Some of these guys, you give them the slightest bit of pushback, and they're just as feminine as a feminine can be. And they just, they crumble under it, man.
Well, they're in the longhouse. Like, they're afraid of women. They're afraid of, especially look, you go to a Latin mass, and there's a lot of guys that are seeking to be more virtuous and seeking to live a more trad lifestyle. But I see a lot of guys being henpecked at the Latin mass too. This isn't a Novus Ordo Latin mass thing. This is a universal cultural issue we're dealing with right now. I want to jump to a couple of super chats because people are super chatting, and I don't want anybody to think I'm blowing them off. Just finished the newest Shoe on Head video. Now the live stream bashing Lila Rose. A good night. Down with the rose, up with the shoe. Let's see. We got big shout out to the channel Fruit of the Femme. I don't know that channel. Talking about masculinity, the Knights of Columbus just isn't discussed anywhere by anyone online. They really are just a defunct group of boomers who kowtow to church ladies these days. That was my issue with the Knights of Columbus. I tried to join years back, and they were all guys over 70, and I was the only, like, I was in my early 30s at the time, and I was just like, I don't fit here. This isn't, I'm not going to potluck dinners and things like that. And then Bobby said, the red pill craps on marriage unless it's to a hot and super holy trad girl. The e-girls sell them that image. It's a recipe for simps. Yeah.
Not wrong.
Yeah. It's wait, let me just go to live. Yeah, it's I just, I don't even want to make this entire episode just crapping on this whole issue, but it's getting hard it's getting hard to watch this continue and to see how just discouraged young men are getting, because they're getting this image that even the Catholic women are just feminists. Like, there's no hope for them. And sometimes I feel like I managed to scoop up the one feminine girl left who just doesn't give me a hard time. I don't know what these young guys are going to do, but when the Catholic women being presented before them are acting like this, they're just going to be so discouraged, and they're going to fall for the red pill stuff.
They are. This is why there's such a need to talk about the red pill stuff under the through the lens of the church, because a lot of these natural law observations that these guys make, the prescriptions, I mean, it's actualized within the church. I mean, it's the perfect illumination of the natural law within the Catholic faith. So why is there not a place for us to talk about these things? And so when you get this sort of Catholic Inc., let's talk about how guys should date, it's retarded and it's gay, and it doesn't actually work. I think, and also too, a lot of these men too, I mean, there's obviously a big problem with these women being feminist, but there's also just a lack of masculinity too. This is not about about the men though thing. This is a lot of guys that are expecting these women to be feminine, but they're not actual leaders themselves too, right? So the difference is, and I'm not putting us on a pedestal necessarily, but it's like, we're not afraid to tell a woman no. We have boundaries. Like it's kind of, maybe if it was natural, or maybe this part of it is nature and nurture, whatever. A lot of these guys don't know, and I don't fault them for it because they didn't have dads or whatnot. So I think there's got to be guys that fill that gap and teach these young dudes like, hey, this is actually how you talk to a woman and not be a spurg. You know, this is how, you know, present yourself physically in a way where you're healthy. Don't have to be a freaking bodybuilder or whatever. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But present yourself in a way that, you know, you're showing that you've got some virtue, you've got some boundaries, you can speak, you're outspoken, you can make her laugh. That's why that clip that Majorian posted after our stream yesterday was me saying that, hey, if a guy could just fill out his t-shirt a little bit more and make a woman laugh, most of these guys would be married. And it's like, it's true, man.
I think the key to a woman's heart is making her laugh. I think if you could get a girl to laugh, you're in. And if you're not a fat, disgusting slob, you're gonna do all right. Yeah, you also tweeted today just about you were like, because so much of that conversation wasn't just what was even in that clip. Well, I don't know. Should we even play the clip?
I mean, people probably know by now, but yeah, it's probably worth playing.
You know what? Yeah, because I think we tend to have this idea that everybody is on Twitter all day like us, and I don't, you know, they're just not. So
it's true.
All right, hang on. Let's see if I can share my screen here. All right. So this is the clip. Let me pull it up.
Can we all talk about Father Mike Schmitz?
I showed him to a girlfriend who's not Catholic, and she's like, when's mass? What about the man needing sex? That's just a cultural narrative that basically says men are like animals and they have to be able to do this sexual thing. Otherwise, they're going to go crazy. And the reality is there's whole vocations that are celibate. And these are virile.
Yes, but married men, that is not the vocation for everyone. And that is a very much a higher calling, right? This is not, you know, and no, men don't need sex. No, I guess. But St. Paul also says you should marry so that you're not burning with lust. Like they're framing it. And I know she's getting into talking about the celibate priesthood, but that is a special vocation and that is not every man's calling. And she's setting it up like you're an animal if you have desires as a man. And I don't think that's even right.
Well, that and then the whole NFP conversation. I mean, not to mention, I mean, it's you can't talk about the priesthood and relate, you know, a member of the clergy to a member of the laity in the sense that there are obviously, just like you said, it's a special calling and vocation. There are graces that come with the office. So, like, these are two different offices. The office of father in terms of, you know, being a priest are two completely different things. And so to compare them to be the same is just goes to show you that a woman really does not know the struggle of the common man that's not a priest.
And this is just a tone deaf conversation. Let's see, where does it go for me?
Men's men. Some of the most masculine of men I know are priests. We need food. We need air to breathe. We don't need sex.
It's a gift
of coming together, and it's designed to bring life into the world.
I think the sexiest thing about a guy is like their self-control. And my husband has
Like, this is so wrong to say this. I'm sorry.
has amazing self-control. So after baby number 4,
She's basically telling everybody. Like, why are you saying your poor husband? Why are you doing this to your poor husband? I don't get it. It's so awful.
or when we started practicing NFP, it was like we couldn't do it sometimes when we wanted to. And that kind of made things a little steamier, like, not gonna lie. It's hard on him too. Don't get me wrong. People will say, well, oh, do you just do other things for your husband?
Like, are you insane to say something like that publicly? Come on, man.
Stop gooning. That's all I gotta say is stop gooning.
Gross conversation. Come on, man. Like, what are you girls doing? Have some like modicum of decency to not just blurt any freaking thing out that comes to your mind. Look, I understand that we're on podcasts and you're trying to fill airtime and you're like, we don't want to. I get that, but man, I don't get anybody, because there was a while back. My friend Kyle had this couple on who had they were huge on theology of the body, and they had like a Catholic sex toy shop. And I was like, he caught so much blowback at his parish. He had to delete the episode and all this stuff. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. And it's like, there's so many people who think it's totally normal to talk about this stuff. And even the NFP conversation that keeps coming up, there's a degree to which when I see people having it, like she was just saying, making my husband wait, this and that. First off, it's a very contraceptive mindset to have, right? Like they're basically using NFP as contraception. But anytime you even talk about this stuff, you're letting an inkling into your personal life with your spouse. So I've seen people arguing and using theology of the body to say that, there are things that are allowed as long as the finishing act is pro-life, right? Or, it's like whatever. I would never have that conversation on air because I'm never letting anybody have a clue what my wife and I do privately. Like that's just not a conversation I would ever have with anybody, regardless of which side of the argument I fell on.
Yeah, the theology of the body. This is where I start to question all these things in a way where I'm genuinely inquisitive. So like when I went on X and I was like, okay, can somebody explain like I'm 5 what NFP is? Because I don't understand how you would go about it without it being a contraceptive mindset. Obviously, in the case of a woman, potentially dying if she were to have another kid. I mean, these are extreme circumstances. But then also the theology of the body stuff, where it's like, okay, well, I've heard where you could go and for the sake of it not the episode not being struck down, you could go and lay sod with your wife, and that's totally fine and not disorder, so long as like the end result is unitive and procreative. It's like that is insane. That's absolutely
insane. And any moral theologian would literally tell you you're insane. Like this is crazy. But even the idea that somebody would speak about that publicly, a married person would speak about that publicly, is just like, why would you have that conversation? I don't understand it. I don't know.
Well, because women have largely been unchecked by this, and if you were to take like kind of a red pill perspective, it's women are the gatekeepers of sex. So it's perfectly permissible for them to do this and sexualize the clergy and give us a glimpse into their bedroom. But if you flip this on the other side and you were talking about a nun and how attractive a man found a nun, yeah, and then we're to go have these conversations, it's like, what I find so sexy about my wife is that the guy would get blasted, and rightly so, because it is immodest. Like we would all fraternally correct a guy like that, but all these women are just like, yes, queen, slay, and it's just retarded.
Yeah, it's so. Oh man, so I don't know. We're gonna end this segment with just a plea to Catholic women who do this stuff online. Please stop talking to men about these things. This is not your place to have these conversations. Let other men have these conversations with men. I don't need to see Lila Rose and Amber going off and telling men how pornography is bad. Like that is just not your place. It's very unbecoming of a woman. And I don't know. I just think that you're all embarrassing your husbands, and I think you owe him a little bit more respect than you're showing them.
Yeah, and secondarily to that is you also don't know how much of an occasion of sin you might be by just simply talking about these things.
Yeah.
When guys are really going through it and they're struggling with lust and sins of the flesh like that, a woman just talking about this could send them over the edge. I mean, and that's like a real consideration to make. It's like, just stop doing it. If it's not for your husband, do it for the men that are like largely watching you trying to quit this stuff too, right? I mean, that's real.
Yeah, no, that's why I said like every one of the conservative e-girls are the same to me. They're all using men's weakness to gain notoriety, to build their platform. They know exactly what they're doing, and then they're out there talking about this stuff. And it's like, it's such a contradiction. That's why you don't see any unattractive conservative girl. Look at Fox News brings the pretty blonde on for a reason, because they know the stupid men sit there and drool over her, even though she has nothing of substance to offer to the conversation.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. It's funny. I mean, you speak out of two sides of your mouth. There's so much cognitive dissonance when you're like preaching about modesty and then you're posting a mass fit. I don't understand how the irony doesn't fall upon you, or the hypocrisy doesn't fall upon you to just not do that anymore. But I think that's also got to do partly with like kind of the catechesis that we all kind of experience
Yeah.
as well. You know, if we're all seeing like trad priests, like, dude, one of the first times I met my priest, he was calling me out on my tattoos. I was like, thank you, Father.
Yeah.
Like, man, I've been seeking this my whole life. Like, thank you. Yes, I will cover up. You want me to wear gloves? I'll wear gloves too. And he's like, no. It's like, it kind of goes to show you like how poorly catechized we've all been, not just by our parents, but also by the church, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a real
They
problem.
totally dropped the ball on us. And this is important too, right? I think most people think modesty ends with a tire. Conversation is immodest while telling men to control themselves. That's what my biggest issue with this whole thing was. It's the immodesty of the conversation in public that this isn't a women's group. It's just not like it's just not a women's group. It's a very public conversation that now is going viral and it's being critiqued by everybody out on the, like, you never know what's going to go viral. You have no idea. We're all putting stuff out there every day and every once in a while something takes off. But the way that clip was edited, man, it just seems like such a total lack of self-awareness or just reading the room to me. So I'm pleading with you women because you are my Catholic sisters, and I don't want to see any. I don't want to see you discourage the young men that I talk to any more than you already have.
If they just took this kind of energy and talked to women about submission and patriarchy, how much better would Christendom be?
They would never.
No, of course not.
They would never. Like, honestly, think about that. Like, think about if they actually talked about submission to their husbands instead of just presenting this girl boss thing and I have to be the center of every. Oh man, it's such a you Catholic women out there, I don't know what you're going to do if you're looking for stuff to listen to, because I don't know.
The reality of it is a lot of this content, if we're not like being prudent and tempered with how we go about it, myself included, if we're not like restrained, we don't think about it, like this stuff will send us to hell.
Yeah.
So like we should have probably all contemplate that a little bit harder and bring this to our confessors as well, because that's a good idea, because many of these things should not be spoken about. And it's like, if you're not trying to actually like edify your audience with, true holy things, and you're just, doing it for clicks or whatever, and then doubling down on it, it's like, I fear for your soul. So like sister, brother to sister type of thing, like being real, not just being melodramatic, being real.
Yeah, this is true too, Molly. Like, women it shouldn't be me and you getting on and telling these women that this is so wrong. It should be other women getting on and telling these women, like shaming these women for like being so immodest on air, all right, so we do have other stuff we're going to cover. I got this one, this girl, it's this girl bugging out because of her student debt. And I thought it was interesting because everybody's ragging on the girl, and I kind of think that it's the parents more than the girls. So I want to see your take on this. Let me see. So,
as it turns out, the student loans that I've been paying $1,500 a month for 2 years have a 17% interest rate. So what I thought I've been paying off for all this time, I'm actually I owe more than what I started off with. What the fuck? So Jeff Bezos, this would be a really cool fucking time to
all right, we're gonna put it off. All right. Well, you get the gist, right? So I didn't realize I should have probably proof watched that. Sorry, it's been in there for a couple days.
Where's Rob?
Sorry. Rob usually does screen my stuff. So everybody was giving this girl a hard time because she's been paying her student loans for 2 years, like $1,500 a month, and she owes more than she borrowed. And it's like, there's this whole conversation around college debt forgiveness and stuff. But so much of this I see is because of parents encouraging their daughters specifically to go off and get themselves buried in this kind of debt. And so much of it is not even about that the parents want their daughter to be successful, but they want to brag on their Facebook about what their daughter's doing. So when a couple months back, my daughter graduated, all of her friends did this thing on Instagram where the parents would buy a whole bunch of memorabilia from the college that they're going to, and the girls would lay on their bed with all the college memorabilia around them, and the parents would take pictures and post it on Instagram. And it was such a debauched thing that was happening, because it's like, first off, you just know these girls are going to get buried in debt, drag that debt into their families. But so much of it was just about these mothers wanting to tell their friends, well, my daughter's going to this college. My daughter's going to this college. And meanwhile, they're sending their daughters off to go live some disgusting lifestyle in college where none of them have any kind of moral upbringing, where they're going to have any kind of defense against the men who are going to prey on them when they go to college. And so much of this is the parents, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they're shipping them off to be dysfunctional men. That's ultimately what it is. And then they're going to go and, Lord forbid, get ran through. And then by the time they're past 30, they're making whatever they're making, still buried in debt. They wonder why they can't find a man. And then, the depression sinks in, the reality sinks in. And I particularly have a soft spot, as you do, because you've got daughters too. I look at my two little girls, and like, I'm constantly thinking about their future. Like, what do I want them to do? I know for sure I'm not sending them to college. Like, that's not what's going to happen. Most of these issues, I mean, even the issue that we're just talking about at the beginning, it comes down to just, I think, poor fatherhood and a lack of leadership. It's what it is. This poor girl has been shipped off. Her dad doesn't give a rip about what's going on with her and her debt situation. Didn't want to pay for her tuition. And then also, to compound that, just ships her off to college. He's probably, I mean, and I've seen these videos too, so I don't want to, accuse this woman's father in particular, but where the man will buy his daughter contraception. Like, my goodness me.
Those men should be put up, they should be publicly, like, that's the most disgusting thing ever, man. And they do it publicly as a virtue signal, like they're doing something good. But when my daughter was considering like what she's going to go and do, like, the first thing I said was, you are not going off to get buried in debt to bring that debt to your family. It's not happening. Yeah. Like, there's no scenario where that's happening. I'm not even going to send you off to college where I don't even have to get to keep an eye. It's not happening. So we had to figure something else out for her. I don't understand. And the thing is, like, I saw it in my wife, where she felt like, oh, what am I going to tell people my daughter's doing? Like that, because like all the women are like, and I'm just like, I don't care. It's not like, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of the thing we're talking about with when the man kind of has to take a position in something and he has to say no sometimes, because I think so many men just don't want to say no to a situation they know is going to be terrible, but they just don't want to make their wife angry and have the fight.
Yeah, or their extended family. I mean, this is something that I've had to face, and it really reveals to you that even, like, I mean, many good people don't realize how covertly indoctrinated by feminism they've been.
All of us. So,
like, I remember, I mean, and God bless her soul, like, my mom was sitting, and my mom's an angel. I love her so much. So this is not, me disparaging her, but she's sitting with her daughter. She's like, okay, so what are you guys going to be when you get older? Like a doctor or a lawyer? I said, Ma. Like, Ma. I said, I love you. Like, and I would never disrespect you, but they're going to be mothers and wives.
Yeah.
And she's like, kind of goes red in the face. And, I didn't want to correct my own mother, but it's like, that's the stuff that we have to do. And who cares? I mean, eventually what I've come to know too, with not vaccinating my kids, homeschooling them, my wife being at home and all this stuff, eventually, guys, if you just hold the line, people leave you alone. And they don't just leave you alone. They respect you. And then they start to ask questions because they see how well ordered your life is.
What's
by the grace of God.
I've told this story on air. I think it was at Christmas last year or maybe the year before. My in-laws were all asking my daughter, because she was coming up, finishing school, and they're like, oh, what are you going to go to school for? What are you going to do? And she's like, I want to be a mom. And they were like, they acted like she just dropped it. You can't. What do you mean you just want to be that? You're just going to be a mom. And I was just like, can you all stop feeding feminism to my daughter right now? Like, my daughter gave the most amazing answer imaginable. And the crazy part was, it was all stay-at-home moms who were giving they're all stay-at-home moms. My mother-in-law stayed home, my wife stays home, or my wife wasn't adding to this obviously, but all my sisters-in-law all stay home, and they're telling my daughter that she needs to go be the girl. And I'm like, not one of you did this. Why are you pushing this on her when all of you were happy being home? And it's because there's so much media coming at women these days telling them, like, you need to be able to have your own way to provide, because when your husband abandoned you, because they all just assume divorce is coming now. It's a crazy thing.
Well, the color revolution has largely been successful in indoctrinating people in such a way where, like, your situation is one thing and you're wishing so. And I'd like to think that, you know, from your family or from my family, it comes from a good place. It's not coming from a evil intention. You know, there's no malice there. I'd like to think it all. Maybe I'm naive, but I'm curious, man. Like, how old are your daughters? Because you got 3 kids, right? 2 girls and a boy.
Yeah. My 17 and 14 are my girls, and my son's 19.
So what are you said that you were inquiring, I'm just curious. I don't know, we don't have to stay on this, but I'm curious with your daughters, especially one being close to college age, like, what is she going to do? I know you said she was inquiring about it. So what are you guys doing?
So we put her in an esthetician program. So she's going to learn to do like cosmetics, facials, things like that. And I figured that was something, because I'm okay with her working until she meets a spouse. And then I figured after she's married, if she ever had to do something from home to maybe help out, maybe, you know, like a little studio from home or something like that. But there's going to be absolutely no debt involved with it. It's going to be paid off. And that's like, that was the best option I saw, as opposed to her working at a fast food place or something like that, you know?
Yeah, and did she feel compelled to do something like that? Was it like, hey, I want to work, Dad? Like, I'm curious because I'm like looking into the future. I mean, my girls are so little, like 4 and 2. So
the way I see it is, I think that like, there's situations where, especially if she meets a guy who's not loaded, right, and they're just trying to make ends meet, I want her to have something where she could bring a little something extra in. Like my wife does. And she doesn't really do it anymore because she doesn't need to anymore, but she did for years. She would do infant photography. So like people would have newborn infants, and she would take pictures of their newborn infants. She would take pregnancy pictures of the girls, like maternity pictures and stuff. And for years that helped us like get by, you know. It was when times were hard. So I think it's good for women to have a little bit of a thing where, like, my wife would take pictures for an hour and then she'd be able to edit them from home. So she didn't have to be out in the work. Like, she was never working in a workplace or anything like that. She was able to do this thing from home. So I think it's okay if women have a little bit of a side hustle that they could do from their house. It doesn't interfere with their mother, you know, being a mother, being a housewife, things like that. So I think any guys that have daughters have to try to like encourage their daughters to do something like that. Now, hopefully she never needs it, but if she ever had to in a time of emergency, it would be there.
yeah, so long as it came secondary to, you know, the vocation of mother and wife, of course. Yeah, that's interesting. I know. I mean, my friend Will Nolan is no different. I think his older daughter is working simply for that reason. So when she goes into that role, they've got, you know, money to bring to the table. Let's say the guy, them getting married young. It's not. I mean, unless the family comes from a loaded background, that makes sense. I wrestle with this all the time because I can idealize in my mind all I want when my girls are really little, and then, you know, once the rubber meets the road when they're older, it's a different story.
Well, you have to think about this also. Where are they going to meet somebody? Like, if they never leave your house, they're never going to meet somebody, right? So you do need to allow your daughters to be somewhere where they can meet somebody, or you need to arrange for them to meet somebody. But to me, it was mainly like the biggest problems I see in society are anytime women are in the workplace where they're in a co-ed environment, that is a nightmare scenario. If your daughter, like if a woman is working for a man, I'm sorry, she's his boss. The husband is never going to be her boss. Like, it's just what's going to happen. Like, if you look up online, there's women will search out, why am I attracted to my boss? Because your boss is then taking the role of your husband, essentially, you know? So I think like and then I have a sister who does like she has like a little hair salon in her house, and she'll do like, she has like a bunch of girl clients. She come and she does hairstyle, like something like that. I think is acceptable. You know, I think my wife doing the photography thing is acceptable. It's just women being out in the workforce, I think, is just disastrous for marriages. I mean, you look at the divorce rate after World War II. And that's not just because no fault divorce was passed. It's because women are now in a co-ed work environment. And I'm sorry, when you put men and women together that are not married, it's just going to happen. And that is what causes 90% of divorces.
Yeah, no, that's very prudent. It was no different with my wife. We always knew she was going to stay at home, but then when we moved here, we're building this house and moving our lives to a completely different place. It's like, okay, well, I've got to rebuild my business, and although we're in a decent position, it was a means to an end. It was a bridge. She worked from home, entirely from home, never went to the office until that point where there was that crossover threshold where, like, yeah, now you don't have to do this anymore. Like, we're good. Don't worry about it. And praise God.
That's exactly what happened with us. So it was like a couple of years where like she was just helping us get our feet on the ground, and you have to do what you have to do. But you know, it's just, you want to avoid any kind, you don't want, like, there's a moral obligation you have to make sure your children don't bring hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt into their marriage. And that's for your sons too, I think. Like, you know, unless your son is going to go for some specialized thing that makes the debt he's incurring an actual investment, I don't see how you can justify bringing $200,000 in student debt into a marriage when you still have to buy a home, and homes are insane at this point. So, I mean, I think the whole university and college system is so messed up. Like, they talk about college debt forgiveness. How about we just get the freaking interest in check? Like, you could do that and it would cut like most of people's misery off, and you wouldn't have to fund cutting people's debt off. It is predatory lending to kids who don't know any better because they're being told, no, you have to go to college to be successful. And meanwhile, half the jobs these kids are going to school for are going to be taken over by AI at this point.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if the future were kind of what you're doing with your daughters, primarily focusing on the vocation, making a little bit of money until there's that crossover point, doing something from home, not in a co-ed environment. And on the flip side, with young boys, I just had a son, and I'm already starting to think about this way 2 decades in advance. It's no, if I don't have a business to give him, he's getting into the trades, and it's going to be like just bash into his brain early on, not just practically, but it's also not as expensive, not nearly. And the level of mastery and compensation that comes with that. I mean, dude, all the guys that I grew up with that got in the trades are comfortable men now.
What happened to me? My son is doing a welding program, and it's going to be like 10 grand for him to get certified in all his welding. And then he's talking about, like, once he gets that certification, he might go for like aeronautics welding or underwater welding and like get specialized in that thing. So all his friends are going away for like computer this and computer that, and I'm like, these kids, those jobs will not exist in 10 years. In 10 years, these kids are going to get out of school, they're going to have $200,000 in debt, and they're going to go, oh, can I get a job? Nah, the AI program takes care of that. So, I mean, I do construction. The only reason I didn't bring my son where I am is because the commute is so bad and it takes years off your life. So yeah, I figured, let me see if I could get him into something like this,
and if they've got some semblance of intelligence and work ethic too, like once you're a certified electrician, HVAC electrician, or a plumber, what have you, it's a license to print money if you have an entrepreneurial mind.
Yep, 100%.
And it's low key. You got contracts. You don't have to worry about leads because, like, you're in demand. You need. It's just if I had to go back and do it all over again and not be like retarded like I was, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think especially there's going to be a huge comeback in the trades just because of the coming technological revolution that's upon us. But like, even podcasting though, Jim, like I know you're goofing around, but the thing is, this market is going to be so oversaturated. Like, it's even so different now than it was 3 or 4 years ago. And pretty much everybody that is becoming successful in this has some kind of money behind them to build their thing behind them. Like, there's very few guys who are just organically pulling off growing a platform anymore. Thank you, Mimi. You're the best. There's one thing I want to end on before we go over to locals. And it kind of adds in with this whole theme that we've been going with. And that's there's this clip of Ruslan discussing there was that pastor that was on CNN. I think Doug Wilson was on CNN talking about patriarchy, And I just kind of want to finish up because this whole episode has kind of been on this. So I just kind of want to show you guys how the Longhouse is permeated everywhere, because what he says is going to sound reasonable, but it's just not. It's just another example of the Longhouse.
Of his Christian movement is on a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands.
Yeah, I think this is where they start losing. I don't know if he holds this view, but like Joe Webbin thinks like women should lose their right to vote. You know, so I think like I'm with you. I'm like, and then they like backdoor something like, yeah, women are kind of subhuman and shouldn't vote. They're created in the image of God, but you know, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's like their official teaching, but like we had Joe Webbin on, and he's like flat out like.
Do you think it's a little bit of a straw man? They use the word dominate, where men dominate their spouse.
I think dominate. I don't know how they mean it. Like as a complementarian, I think men are the head. As a complementarian, I think you should be the head of your household, meaning that there is a time and a place where you may have to have a trump card over an issue where hypothetically you and your wife are divided on.
This poison doctrine that is out there of mutual submission. It is so insane. No, there are not certain situations where you have to be able to pull the trump card because you're the head of the home.
Hypothetically, Anthony. Hypothetically,
there might be. No. You are either the priest of your home. Like, okay, so look, I've had arguments with people because I've said that your wife is actually your spiritual child. Right. So you are the priest of your home. It is your role as the husband to get your wife to heaven. Like if I decided we are not going to go to mass anymore, my wife would follow me. I mean, maybe not now, but there was a time where she would have. Now I don't think she would. But the point being, you actually have an obligation to be the care, like the priest of the souls of everybody in your care in your home. And that starts with your wife. Your wife is your spiritual child. Now, she also has a spiritual motherhood over your children and obviously a natural motherhood too. But you are first and foremost the priest in your home. And it's not in hypothetical situations. At all times, you are the head of the home, and you will have to give an answer to God if your wife does not get to heaven.
That's absolutely right. And let's not forget too that the only bit of authority a woman has over you is over your body as husband and wife. You have complete authority over your family, complete. Yes. Like you can bless them. You have complete authority, but that's not for you, it's for them. Mm-hmm. So that speaks exactly to what you're saying. I think you could already start to hear this guy's wheels start to click. His mouth goes dry and he's like, hypothetically, maybe certain, it's like, it's okay to say that, yeah, no, I have to say no to my wife. I do say no to my wife. And sometimes she'll buck up against it. That's okay. That's because she's a fallen human being, just like I'm a fallen human being. She takes my crap. I take her crap sometimes as well. And it's an important conversation to have about, both sides of patriarchy too, which is, I think, what Will, Tim and I have, I think, spoken at length about is, of course I go to my wife for when I'm making decisions, not to ask her permission, but I know she's prudent. She's genuine of heart, and she's got the best interest of our family in mind. But she knows damn well the last word is mine.
Yeah.
Like, that's not to say she's banished to this corner of the home. I'm trying to help my wife as much as I can on a daily basis and reduce her stress. But I know my place. She knows hers. And when it comes down to it, it's not this trump card. It's called being a man. That's all it is. And there's a way to say that lovingly too.
Yeah. Like, this isn't about like being a monster in your home or anything. It's just like my wife doesn't want to be me. Like that's just, she just doesn't want to be me. She's like, I don't want the burdens you have on you. She just would never want the burdens that I have on me. And I would never want hers. They're just different. They're just totally different. And but this idea of mutual submission is just so upside down to me. It comes into parish life when priests are submitting to the parish instead of the priest being the father of the parish and saying, no, this is for your spiritual good. I'm doing this thing because I know it's what's best for you. I don't care if you're upset about it. This needs to be done. Like if more priests would actually have that authority about them, you could fix the church really quick, because it really is a crisis of fatherhood. And if priests actually just started saying like, no, I'm sorry, we're doing this thing because this is actually, because a priest is going to have to answer to God for every soul in his care as well. It's the same thing in your home. It's just, and especially because we have such a weak priesthood at the moment, you have even higher of a demand to be the priest of your home.
Yeah, and if to all the men that are husbands and fathers that listen to this, I mean, this should weigh on your soul more than anything else. I mean, it does. I feel it every day. It's like one of the things that I pray about the most. It's like every time I go to confession, every time I go to mass, there is this weight that I'm like, and that's ultimately was the revelation that brought me to Catholicism. It was like, man, I'm gonna have to guide these little souls and my wife's soul to heaven. Like, how am I going to be able to make an account for this properly? Boom, here I am in the church. Like, this should weigh on your soul.
Yeah.
You know, this is not about tyranny. This is not about wielding this hammer. No, it's about it is going to test your ability to lead, not because leadership is for you, it's for your family, it's for God. That's how you get yourself to heaven too.
If men actually understood how much authority that God has given them as men, and how you are the Christ figure to your family, it should actually make you tremble in fear. Like, you should actually tremble in fear, because it is such a huge responsibility that God has put on men. I promise you, women that think they want that responsibility, or they don't know what they're asking for. Like, they don't understand what they are asking for, because it is terrifying when you think about every single thing you are going to be held to account for in how you ruled your family as a man. It's scary stuff.
Well, especially, I mean, you know, material provision is just a foot in the door, although a big responsibility, but it's the spiritual formation. You catechize your family. You are actually quite literally the priest of the home. So number one, if you're not getting right with God, staying in a state of grace, like denouncing vices in your life, working toward virtue, building a robust interior life, and mortifying yourself, like those graces aren't just for you.
Yeah.
You know, like when I go to confession, like I feel prompted because of course, like I fear God out of love for him, but it's also my family gets bestowed with those graces as well. I've noticed that the transformation it's had on our lives as well. And if you're not leading in prayer, if you're not teaching them, yeah, your wife will, but it won't stick to the same degree. It is fundamentally different. Like the authority that's given to us as father and mother, respectively, fundamentally different. This should make you shake. Every time you're in the confessional, it should make you shake.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So your kids are still little. I remember when my kids were growing up, there was a couple of things I did with them. One of them was, if they ever had something weighing on their conscience and they came and told me just because it was weighing on their conscience and not because they were going to get caught, but like if they just came to me and said, Daddy, I did this wrong, they would get like an act of jubilee from me. Like they would get an act of mercy from me, and they would never face consequences for it. Right. So if they came to me as if they were confessing to me, I would just grant them absolution. I don't care how bad it was. The other thing I told them was, if we go to mass and you're in a state of mortal sin and you can't receive, I will never ask you why. I will never ask my child why they did not receive. I will make sure they're at confession that, you know, as soon as possible, but I'll never ask my children, why didn't you receive? It's just something that's between them and God. And I think it's a greater sin for them to receive in a state of mortal sin than it is for them to, you know, not want to tell me they did something wrong. And then there was one other one that I did with them growing up, like, especially if they wronged their sibling. Like if they came and told me about it, I would just, it would be something where they wouldn't get in trouble. Like I wanted to show them a great act of what it's like for God to be merciful to them. And also how important it was to not ever receive our Lord when you were in a state of mortal sin. Those are two lessons that I think I really did a good job with them on. And even to this day, my kids will come to me before mass and they'll say, hey, can we go to confession before mass?
That's beautiful, man. I'll have to stick both of those in my back pocket, particularly the one where they admit to you what they've done wrong, and then you're kind of acting in persona Christi almost in a way and saying, hey, like, we're all good. I'm actually not going to punish you. That's powerful, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to go over to locals. I got a couple other things. Let me see what I got over for locals. I got a bunch of stuff. Let's see. I have the New York Post put out an article about this guy who took his own life. And one of the quotes from the article said, "It was Chase's own decision to enter heaven. His light will continue to shine eternally in the hearts of all those he touched throughout his remarkable, though far too brief life." Now, I want to talk about like how ridiculous it is that we spout these platitudes to people about the reality of hell and the reality of if somebody does take their life. Like we have to get back to telling people the truth about things, because it's actually leading people to think you can do something like that and you're now an angel in heaven or something. So we're going to talk about that. I got a bunch of other stuff too. If you guys are not Locals members, come over to Locals. That's where we have the more and I'll get a little more personal over there too. So we're heading over there. We're not going to do some fancy outro. Mike, you got anything to promote before we go?
The only thing I'll say is I've been really passionate about my YouTube channel lately. I've been really enjoying the feedback. So just go subscribe. Mike Pantile on YouTube. I dropped some merch. You want to grab something? Cool. Go ahead. Otherwise, just please subscribe. I'd appreciate that more than anything.
Yeah, and hit like and subscribe this video. And Rob and I got our merch shop fixed. So we were having a problem with our merch shop originally. We have a new vendor. So if you guys do want to grab your Have You Accepted Mary as Your Personal Mother and Intercessor shirt, or I'm Religious Not Spiritual, we got a couple of those up there. So go buy our merch too. And we'll see you guys on the other side. Let me see how the hell to cuddle these feeds now. This is always awkward as we do this. It used to be like you just used to be able to just hit one or two buttons and it would go. But let me see.
Well, you need a producer, bro.